Welcome to Soccer Morning on NASN. Here's your host, Jason Davis.
Happy Friday. How's your soccer? Jason Davis, Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network. We are here. We are live. I am as enthusiastic as I usually am on Fridays. I get worked up on Fridays. It's hard not to be. Get the weekend coming, the glut of games. We're closing down seasons all over the place. We've got World Cup rosters, players reporting to camp. MLS is taking a little bit of a back seat for me. I'm going to watch MLS this weekend, don't get me wrong. But it's taking a little bit of a back seat for me because all of those internationals are gone. Well, those guys are out with their teams now. I think there's maybe a couple of holdouts. A couple of teams managed to keep their players through the weekend. One of the Costa Ricans in Columbus, I think it's to stay. But other than that, all your American players are gone. So RSL in Colorado in the Rocky Mountain Cup, without Beckerman, without Raimondo, without Saverio. You have Seattle with their contingent gone. I mean, this is hitting the league pretty hard right now when you think about it. Let me look down the schedule very quickly. And by the way, let's set up this show. I'm getting into a rant here. I don't really mean to do this. Set up today's show. Giuseppe LaRocca from the Trade Quartista podcast will join us in a couple of minutes. We'll talk about Cesar Prandelli's Italy World Cup squad, the 30-man roster he has named. Who will be cut, who won't be cut. We'll talk about Mario Balotelli, I'm sure, because that's what you do. And Giuseppe Rossi, so be ready for that. Also on the show, Kwame Darko. If you haven't seen Kwame Darko's music, he's a former player at Maryland. He is a soccer guy. He's got a new mix out of his song, Bet They See Me Now, USA Soccer Mix. It's good. The lyrics are U.S. soccer lyrics. He name checks every MLS team. I dig it. We're going to talk to Kwame about soccer, how soccer inspires his music, what the game means to him now as he does what he does, and creates songs like Bet They See Me Now and other stuff out there. Go to. By the way, check him out. Spotify, whatever. iTunes for Bet They See Me Now. That's out now. I came out yesterday. We'll play a little bit of it and talk to Kwame in a bit. But when you look at this MLS schedule, every single one of these games hit hard by international absences. Toronto, New York. Michael Bradley's gone. Julius Cesar's gone. Maybe that's less of an issue for Toronto. Bendick's a pretty good goalkeeper, but Michael Bradley's gone. Philadelphia, New England. Marisa Dew is gone for Philadelphia. DC, Montreal. Okay, nothing happening there. Those two teams are going to be at full strength, or whatever you want to call what Montreal is right now, because I don't think you can call them full strength ever. And I think I saw rumors of a trade today. I don't know if this is official yet. Looks like Colin Warner may be shipped from Montreal to Toronto, potentially as cover for Michael Bradley, who's going to be gone, obviously. Dallas, Chivas, okay. I don't think there's any absences there, so no real impact. But Dallas is struggling. Moro Diaz is out. Chivas is Chivas. They beat Colorado last week. We'll see if they back it up with a second win. Houston, L.A., Brad Davis is gone. Is Boniek Garcia playing on this weekend? He's playing this weekend, and then he leaves, I believe. Obviously, LA is losing Donovan and Gonzalez. RSL Colorado, I just mentioned that one. Beckerman, Raimondo, Saverio. Seattle, San Jose. Seattle losing 3 American players. San Jose loses Goodson, Bernardez, Wondolowski. Portland, Columbus. I may be missing somebody there from San Jose. Portland, Columbus. You got the Costa Rican players I mentioned. Betishore. No, Betishore's a Vancouver Whitecap, Trevor. You keep up with your MLS. Throwing me off. Portland, Columbus. You got a couple in there for Columbus. Obviously, Michael Parkhurst. Chicago, Sporting Kansas City. No Beasler. No Zusi. Those games are all hit by this. And it makes me wonder, what do you make of MLS this weekend? I mean, there's other stuff that's more important happening in other places. No offense to MLS. It's the middle of the regular season. FA Cup final. DFB Pokal final. I have no idea how to say that properly in German. You have La Liga coming down to the wire. Atletico Madrid and Barcelona. Atleti needs a point to win the title. Barcelona still has a chance at it. Barcelona just re-signed Lionel Messi, by the way, because that's what you do when you have Lionel Messi. Whether he has been slightly less impressive than he has been in the past or not, he's still Lionel Messi. He's still one of the greatest players in the world. So they've locked him up there. So what is MLS for you this weekend? I don't know. It's interesting. It's an interesting question to consider, and it's going to be this way for a little while. Because while MLS is breaking for the World Cup group stages, there's still 4, 5, 6 games for these teams without these international players. In other news, Sepp Blatter is being Sepp Blatter again, because that's what Sepp Blatter does. Sepp Blatter cannot not be Sepp, if you know what I mean. I know that doesn't make a lot of sense, but if you understand anything about Sepp Blatter, you know exactly what I mean. Sepp Blatter has admitted it was a mistake to award the 2022 World Cup to Qatar because of the extreme heat players will face in the Gulf state. Of course it was a mistake. You know, one makes a lot of mistakes in life. Just, it's like if you got caught speeding, or, maybe you forgot to pay a bill. He chalks it up as, it's just a mistake. Just a mistake. No big deal. Just a little mistake. Like, you make a lot of mistakes in your lifetime. The technical report indicated clearly it was too hot in summer, but despite that, the executive committee decided with quite a big majority that the tournament would be in Qatar. I wonder why. Blatter insisted, however, that Qatar had not bought the World Cup, but did spend large amounts of money on sponsorship and development programs. If they spent a lot of money on things that benefited the executive committee members or their associations, we really going to say they didn't buy the World Cup? Come on, Sepp. Sepp Blatter. A couple months ago, mocking Cristiano Ronaldo. He called him a general on the field, and then he did this. If you don't know what that's all about. He added, "No, I have never said it was bought, but that it was due to political considerations." Yeah, semantics. We know full well that big French and German companies work in Qatar, but they don't just work for the World Cup. The World Cup is only a small part of what's going on in Qatar. Yeah, Qatar has gone full court press. They're pressing Qatar. They're taking their billions and they're throwing them in the general direction of people with power. And of course, the people with power, who are notoriously corrupt to begin with, of questionable morals throughout, of course they bow to that pressure. A large majority of the executive committee decided to give the World Cup to Qatar. This is not a coincidence when there's this much money in play. When there's the reports of Platini and Sarkozy and France and PSG and Qatari money. If you don't know what that's all about, go look for it. A report that Sarkozy put pressure on Michel Platini to support the Qatari bid because of the investment Qatar is making in France. This is all nonsense. Just quit lying. We all know what the game is. As explained in his answer to the journalist, the president reiterated that the decision to organize the World Cup in summer was an error based on the technical assessment report of the bid, which had highlighted the extremely hot temperatures in summer in Qatar. At no stage did he question Qatar as host of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. It's going to happen. That's the thing. We're going to have 6 more years of it was a mistake, that we shouldn't have done this. The players are going to be subjected to extreme weather. The play is going to be, the fans will be subjected to extreme weather. It was a mistake. But we're going to go ahead and do it anyway. Because once you make a mistake, apparently you can't reverse it. Not with all that money in play. All right. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will grab Giuseppe LaRocca. We will talk Italian soccer. We'll talk Azzurri and the national team as they head into a World Cup. Cesar Prandelli's team is out. Don't go anywhere. Soccer Morning. North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, soccermorning.com. Support the show. FIFA and Sepp Blatter, so you know I'm having a good time.
Oh my God, you can talk about that all day, but you're just kind of chasing your tail, you know?
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what it is. All right. I'm sure this is pretty straightforward. Talk about this 30-man. It is 30, right? I didn't count them. It is 30, right?
Yeah, 30-man right now. It's going to go down to 23, obviously.
Obviously. So we'll talk about the 30. We'll talk about what their preparations will be like. I don't know their warm-up schedule, but I'm sure you have it in your head. And, focus on a couple of names. Obviously, Balotelli is always going to drive interest, and then Rossi is coming back and potentially making this team is a big deal, obviously. So we'll talk about those things. And anything else you have in mind, just steer me in that direction. All right.
Yeah, sure, we'll do.
All right, let's go.
2, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
Back on Soccer Morning, joined now by Giuseppe LaRocca from the Tre Quartista podcast, covering all things Italian soccer in that boot-shaped I see. I was trying to be clever there, Giuseppe, and I just tripped over my tongue and I ruined it. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I have the World Cup fever.
Do you?
I've had it for 2 months now. It's dangerous.
Because I do this, I'm a huge World Cup guy. I think it's difficult to love this sport and not look forward to this tournament. Even if you care about club soccer over country, it still gets you buzzed a little bit. I think because I do this show every day and I have to talk about current events, things that are actually happening, it's been a slow burn, but I've got it too. I'm looking at these rosters, Giuseppe. I'm looking at these names and I'm getting that buzz. And we've got you here to talk about Italy's team and the 30-man roster that Prandelli has named. Obviously going to be making 7 cuts. There are names that stand out, names we expected. And I guess the first question for you is, are there surprises in this team?
No, to be honest, I think Prandelli did a great job selecting this 30-man, provisional roster. The only exclusions or surprises, I guess you could say, is that Prandelli chose not to bring Giaccherini, who, if you remember in the Confederations Cup last year, was the utility guy for Prandelli. Played and I think started in every Confederations Cup match and played with Balotelli as a second striker and also played on the wing. Eventually ended up with Sunderland on a nice deal for himself because of his performance. So I think that was a big surprise, especially since Prandelli brought him into the fold 4 years ago when he took over this project. Another player that I guess you could say was a surprise was Alessandro Diamanti. Plays sort of a similar role to Giaccherini. He's a player who can take on defenders, and it seemed like Prandelli really loved using Diamanti. Was the first person off the bench a lot of the times, but he wasn't selected as well. The two things that are in common with both of these players, they don't play in Italy, and that might have had something to do with it.
Yeah, traditionally, the Italian team is Italian-based players, players in Serie A, and I suppose that the question will be: is there ever going to be an evolution away from that sort of strict requirement? I think it's more been a de facto situation than anything else.
This is a good question. I've talked about it with a lot of Serie A fans or Italian soccer fans. It seems like for Italian players, this might be, the one stronghold to keep them in Italy, with everything going on in terms of, fan violence and ownership and all the stuff you hear from the Italian leagues. It's been a stronghold. It's one of the things that is known. All the Italian players know, Italian fans, Italian coaches. If you want to get a nod for the Italian national team, you have better chances if you stay in Italy and stay in Serie A. I don't know, maybe the FIGC doesn't have a travel budget for Prandelli to go watch games in England or Japan.
Right. Well, it's the same thing with England. And, not that I really ever expected Jermaine Defoe to make the England squad, but you leave England and suddenly, the chances of you making that team drop to almost nil. All right. The names that stick, I imagine that, it's interesting that Giuseppe Rossi went back to Italy and now is in this team. You'll wonder if he was still in Spain, whether he would have been included. More than likely, if he was healthy. But he's a player that's coming back from another injury. Full of promise. Obviously, has made a return at Fiorentina and played well. how much of a difference can he make? And I suppose it's interesting to see a player who hasn't really figured significantly over the past couple of years come in, and if he's at his best, he can make a difference.
Absolutely. And Prandelli is, I don't want to say banking on Giuseppe Rossi, but that's his most important forward on this roster. It's not Balotelli, it's not Cassano or Ciro Immobile. It's Giuseppe Rossi. He's banking on the health of Giuseppe Rossi. I mean, look over the last couple of years. He's been one of the most prolific goal scorers in Serie A. He's definitely the most hardworking of all the forwards they have in the Italian national team. And in terms of goals and performance, he's been the most consistent. The only downside of that is he's been injured for a bulk of the time. So having Giuseppe Rossi will be very important to Prandelli. He can play in the 3-5-2, the 4-3-1-2. Opens up a lot of options for Prandelli. So hopefully he's healthy enough to go. He has been playing the final games for Fiorentina, which I know he scored a couple weeks back. So he looks like he's heading in the right direction for Brazil. And like I said, very important for Prandelli. I think, all in all, if you look at this Italian roster, defensively in the midfield, you kind of have a good understanding of who they're going to go with, who they'll start, and who'll get a bulk of the playing time. The biggest question mark for Italy is the attack, is the forwards. If you look at the total number of World Cups between the forwards that Prandelli selected, it's 0. None of these forwards have World Cup experience. All of them come with question marks. Balotelli, obviously not coming off a terrible season at Milan. I think it's fair to say it was a terrible season. Cassano, a revival of a season, but he's hot-headed. Who knows what he causes on the field? Some days he's on, some days he's off. Pretty inconsistent. Ciro Immobile, a player that is capocannoniere in Italy right now. He's the top scorer. Had a terrific season, but he's very young, and nobody expected him to be in this place 10 months ago. So many question marks in attack, and I think that's really the big story about Italy going into this World Cup.
Well, what does that mean for Prandelli and for the uninitiated about the Azzurri? Talk about how they're going to play. I mean, break all of those old stereotypes about Catenaccio and tell us exactly what Italy is going to look like at this World Cup.
Well, I mean, you saw it at the Confederations Cup. You saw it at the Euro 2012. This isn't your grandfather's Italy. It absolutely isn't. 4 years ago, when Prandelli, took reins of the Italian national team, it was clear that they were a more attacking team. Used their wing play. Even his selections up top, bringing in Balotelli to the fold. And I mean, they've suffered defensively a little bit because of it, but this is an exciting team to watch now. But it's interesting because with this Prandelli and going into the World Cup, he's a chameleon. He will adapt his formation to who he's playing. So I wouldn't be surprised in each of the 3 group stage games if they come out with 3 different formations. And that's just Prandelli's MO. That's what he's been doing for 4 years. So, I mean, of course, there are a lot of questions going in, but one thing is certain: they will be attacking, and they will be a fun team to watch.
Are we talking 5-man midfield, a 4-3-3 type situation? What if you were talking about a base?
So Prandelli what he'd like to do is alter between 3 different formations. He has a 4-3-1-2, which is one of his traditional formations, a 4-5-1, and a 3-5-2. Now, the 3-5-2 would be interesting because I know Prandelli yesterday mentioned that if he has the 3 men in the back, that central defender needs to be more of a creator, needs to be more of a midfielder. And if you remember back to the 2012 Euro Cup, Daniele De Rossi, a center midfielder for AS Roma, was playing that center back role in a creator role, almost like a Beckenbauer. So if they play that 3-5-2, I wouldn't be surprised to see Daniele De Rossi as that central defender. That opens up the midfield for Pirlo, Marchisio, Thiago Motta, a whole lot of selections. So like I said, those three formations will be the formations that Prandelli will look to. It's all game to game, and honestly, it's based on chunks of time within a game. I've seen them switch from a 4-3-1 to a 3-5-2 in one game before, so I wouldn't be surprised to see that in the World Cup, depending on how things go.
So that's interesting to consider whether Prandelli will push De Rossi into a central defensive position with a three-man back, because, as you said, sort of there is a glut of central midfield options for him.
Yeah, if you look at the midfielders that he selected more midfielders than any other position. And I mean, even if you look at the attack, Lorenzo Insigne, he would use, he listed him as a forward, but he would use him more as an outside winger in the midfield. If you look at it, the defense, it's that Juventus core defense, but Prandelli seems a little, tentative about using that core back there and using, center backs in a three-man defense. So that's why I wouldn't be surprised to see De Rossi back there. And I mean, De Rossi, go back to the Euro 2012. De Rossi played really well back there. Very confident on the ball, sent long balls, was able to open up the field. It's really interesting because you don't see that in soccer a whole lot these days. But when you have somebody that talented on the ball, that comfortable in that position, it really opens up the game for you.
Yeah, certainly. And everybody's going to be looking to see what Pirlo can do. He's still an amazing player at his age. And let's move back up to the front, to the front of the formation, and you obviously Giuseppe Rossi will get some attention as sort of whether or not he can fulfill his promise and make this World Cup after missing out in 2010. There's going to be so much attention on Mario Balotelli, whether he's on the bench or in the lineup, Giuseppe. And I suppose the question then is, I don't know that Mario Balotelli himself will necessarily be a headache, but that stuff follows him. And because of the intense scrutiny and the media that comes with it, is there any question at all whether Prandelli, thinks that might not be worth what he brings? Because it's been an interesting sort of up and down rough year for Balotelli at Milan.
No, absolutely, Jason. And it seems like Mario Balotelli, when it comes to his club at least, it just, it doesn't work out. It works out in the beginning, and then at some point in time, it all crumbles. With Prandelli and with the national team, we've seen a different Mario Balotelli, a more inspired Balotelli, a Balotelli who's more for his teammates, more for the success of the group. And maybe that's, Prandelli, and maybe that's his ability to work with Balotelli. It also is a short period of time, right? It's not like it's an entire, World Cup season. It's a month and a half that he has to be committed to a group. It's easy to see that Balotelli on the national team is different than Balotelli with the club, with Milan, or whether it was Manchester City. In terms of his attitude, I wouldn't be too worried. I think that Mario Balotelli, there's a good chance that he might be coming off the bench. There's a player in Ciro Immobile who's the top scorer in Serie A. I know I mentioned him previously, who I think can turn a lot of heads this World Cup. This guy has led Torino. He's, torn through Serie A. He's probably one of the best strikers in Serie A out now. And he works well with, a false nine as well. So I think this guy, Ciro Immobile, has a great chance to start for Italy, at least one of the matches of the group stage, and then we'll see. In terms of Mario Balotelli, look, you could never leave him out of the squad, right? I mean, you see what he did in Euro 2012, especially against Germany, that one match where he really put the team on his back. So have to deal with, whatever it is off the field or, however he's feeling that day.
All right. Italy in Group D with England, Costa Rica, and Uruguay. And I suppose we have to get now to the nitty-gritty of this, Giuseppe. What's the ceiling for Italy? And I suppose when you look at the way this plays out, England up first, this is a team with a reputation for starting slow. And I've talked to Englishmen who are sort of banking on that. Is that an issue for this squad?
Well, I mean, look, Italy, the way the schedule worked out, they could make it easy for themselves, right? If they were to go out and get a win against England, were to go out and get a win against Costa Rica, that third leg, maybe the hardest leg against Uruguay, might not even matter.
Right.
The problem is, it doesn't usually work out like that for Italy. I know I've mentioned this before, but I think they will get the win against England. I'm very confident in that. The issue with me is that Costa Rica match. Italy, if you go back to 2010, I mean, it's always the minnow of the group that gets them, right? So 2010, you had New Zealand, who tied Italy.
Right.
In 2006, the year they won the World Cup, they had the United States, who tied them in the group stage, and it was always that second match. So, I think Costa Rica lines up to be that opponent for them. I think, a lot of Italians might be overlooking them right now. I know we talked about this before. I don't really know what to think of Costa Rica. But if they are able to get those two results, and then that Uruguay game doesn't really matter, then, obviously that's the most favorable position to be in. And I think with the squad that they have, just with the talent alone in attack, midfield, and defense, they have the ability to do that.
I'm looking here at how this breaks out for them in the knockout rounds, assuming that they advance. I think the smart money obviously is on Italy getting out of this group and perhaps even winning it, although Uruguay may present a challenge, and who knows what England will bring to the table. It looks like if they win the group, they get the second place team in Group C, and I'm trying to find out who that is right now. Have you looked at this yet?
I've looked at it probably,
a long time ago.
Or whatever. Look, in the end, it doesn't matter. You're going to have to play the best team,
sure,
right? And you're going to have to go, at least in the semifinals, the quarterfinals. You're going to play, a top 10 team.
Giuseppe, it actually this is the thing. You win this group, you get the winner of Group C with Colombia, Greece, Ivory Coast, or Japan. Colombia is obviously a challenger for making some noise in this tournament, but none of those other teams are really going to overly scare Italy.
No, I'd say that's a really good group to go against, especially if they win the group.
If they win the group, all the more pressure on them.
But like I said, in the end, you're going to face the best teams. And, when I look at this Italy team in comparison to a lot of the other top teams, I think they're right there. I think they're right in it to the end. This team, the ceiling is the World Cup final. Really, I think that they could do that. The problem is, it always comes down to the group stage, if they can actually get out of the group stage somehow. But when I look at them against the Brazil, Spain, the top teams in the world, they have the talent. They have the experience. There really aren't any excuses. I think Prandelli picked a good squad, a good mix of experience and players that have done well and deserve to be on the national team. So they are in a prime position to do well in this World Cup, especially with Prandelli having a 4-year project and it really coming to fruition this year.
I got to let you go, Giuseppe, but last question here. Vince on Twitter wants to know if Immobile is going to Dortmund.
Yeah, that seems to be the rumor. I've heard rumors that it's about 22 million euros. I think he's worth it from what I've seen in Italy this year. So it seems like that will happen.
Well, good timing. Stay in Italy to get on the World Cup team, and then leave, and then maybe come back in 2018 because you're probably going to need to be in Italy to get selected. Giuseppe Larossi. I'm sorry, Giuseppe. Just.
I wish I was Giuseppe Larocca.
I'm sorry, Giuseppe Larocca. My fault. Giuseppe Larocca, Trey Cortista _GL on Twitter. Go follow him. Check out his podcast. Thank you for your time as always, Giuseppe. Appreciate it, man.
Take care.
All right, let's take a break. When we come back, we're going to grab Kwame Darko. He is a former University of Maryland player, now a musician, making hip-hop music and doing it with some soccer flavor. Let's talk to him when we come back. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV, soccermorning.com, which isn't working.
I turn my camera on. I cut my fingers on.
I forgot.
time and all that matters is a victory. On the field, we just wanna make history. Sweat and tears with my team during preseason. Leave it on the field for 90 minutes, you better believe it. From up top, across the middle, and the back line, we just wanna score some goals.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
We come back with Bet They See Me Now, USA Soccer Remix from Kwame Darko, who's on the line with us now. Kwame, how are you, man?
I'm good. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm digging the song. I just talked to just let you know I like the song a lot. I love the name checks of all the clubs and all of that stuff. It definitely feels like a soccer anthem that we haven't had before. And I mean, obviously, for people who don't know, this is your game. You played in college. You are a soccer guy. Talk a little bit about your background and what soccer has meant for you throughout your life.
Yeah, grew up playing soccer, obviously, through the youth ranks, all the way to college, where I had the opportunity to play with, a bunch of guys on the national team and then other guys in the league. And I kind of went from strictly soccer to when I got to around high school, to really putting more time into my music. And then I got to the point in college where I had to choose between the two, so to speak. And luckily I was around, some of these guys who were doing quite well in the league and beyond that, where I knew what kind of dedication it took to really get to that next level. And music happened to be, what I was most passionate about at the time, but obviously soccer is a huge part of my life. But, just grew up playing in the Maryland area. And then I went on to the University of Maryland to play with them, and it was great. Had a couple national championships, and I'm obviously just still a soccer guy.
Maryland was a machine, and still a really, really good program. You got Mo Adu on the cover of this single. I mean, however we wanted to phrase this here. I'm looking at it on Spotify right now, but they see me now with Mo Adu rocking the popsicle jersey. What do you make of the popsicle jersey?
I think it's cool. It kind of looks like exactly. It's like the popsicle. It's cool. It's a little different, but I think it'll work out.
Now, when we sort of talk about how soccer is slowly becoming more and more part of the culture of this country, obviously American culture is a complicated thing. There isn't really one. I mean, there's a melting pot, people from all over the place. Soccer for a long time has had a reputation, and I'm sure you came up against this a lot while you played, of being that suburban minivan orange slice sport. It kind of paints soccer into a corner. And I think things like this song and obviously your involvement with soccer and how many players are out there now sort of talking about what you're doing opens up some minds a little bit. You think that's part of this?
For sure. I mean, that's one of the main reasons why, I made the song. And, just being around guys and knowing what the culture's really like. Sometimes I think that, for example, I look at an NBA game, I'm like, wow, LeBron James is really cool. And just the way that they're marketed and the way that the media displays them, I feel like soccer players in America, they aren't exposed as much, and the audience, they don't really get to know who the players are. You see them at games and the commercials afterwards, but you don't really know too much about them. And I don't really think that, they're getting exposed in the right way, or at least enough, so to speak.
This is Kwame Darko. You can get the song Bet They See Me Now, USA Soccer Mix on iTunes. Out yesterday, I believe. So go check that out and grab that. Follow him on Twitter, Kwame Darko Music on Twitter. All right, so I've been aware of you for quite some time because of guys out there sort of putting the guys you played with, other guys in the soccer community who are supporting you as you do this. How important is that support from all of those guys? Again, not just who you play with, but sort of the soccer community adopting Kwame Darko as a voice of a portion of this soccer culture we got.
I mean, it's huge. In terms of, credibility, it's nothing. It's all organic, so to speak, and just being able to have their support and me using, my first love, soccer, as a platform to kind of enhance my music is great. I'm always going to be, a soccer guy. My goal in the future down the line is to, become an owner of a team.
And, sweet.
Something like that. I'm always going to be embedded in soccer. Music is my main focus, but A lot of people don't know that soccer, the way we like to treat it, it's a lifestyle. You know, even though I'm not playing, I can still mix it up, you know, with the best of them. And, you know, I'll go watch the games and I'll go hang out with the guys and do some of the things that they like to do. And I like to look at it as more like a lifelong lifestyle instead of just, you know, me playing at one point in time, because everyone's going to stop playing soccer, you know, at some point. So it's like, you know, how do you kind of keep that, you know, alive in some way?
Now, I've always been interested in seeing how sort of soccer seeps into lyrics. Now, obviously, you're a soccer guy. You got this whole song, and everything is related to the game. But you know, when we listen, when we see new hip hop music out there, and we get these little references to Ibrahimovic and you know, and Messi and Ronaldo and stuff like that. Do you think that's an indicator of sort of where soccer is? I mean, it's slowly creating its own little buzz in this country.
Yeah, I mean, I think that has a lot to do with some of the rappers that have gotten big or artists that have gotten bigger. And, you know, as they become more famous, they realize that, you know what, like hip hop or my music isn't as big as soccer is, so to speak, across the world. So I think they find that it's real trendy. They see Messi and they see Cristiano and all of them in, you know, their fancy clothing, and then they're hearing about them all over the world. You know, when their names aren't being dropped, you know, so to speak, it kind of makes them think it's the in thing, the cool thing. And I mean, it's good. It's bringing, you know, notice to it, but I still want to see it where the players in the U.S. are really kind of getting that recognition, because we do have some really cool personalities. You know, Mo, for example. You know, there are some pretty cool personalities that I think, you know, we should know about. Kids should want to aspire to be like them on the soccer field, but also, you know, they see, you know, on ESPN, they want to know what they're doing, you know, off the field, et cetera. And I think we have a lot of pretty cool people like that.
We're getting a little bit of that with the World Cup lead up. I mean, the behind the scenes stuff on the national team. I mean, you know, there are a lot of guys that they can focus on, a lot of stories. You hope that the personalities come out. I mean, look, we all know what Landon Donovan is like in front of a camera. I'm kind of, not that I don't want to hear him talk, but I'm kind of over what Landon Donovan's going to say when he sits down and goes into robot voice. I want to know about those other guys like you were talking about. And maybe there is some room for that. Maybe you got to have some guys guest. What's up with that?
Some what?
Some guys guest on your music and get them out there that way. We got
I mean, go ahead. I would love for them to do that. You know, it's cool. It's just I really, yeah. The players are cool. Like everybody's cool. Soccer is, you know, when you're growing up with all the guys that you play with, it's a cool sport, and it goes beyond just the, you know, the family and the minivan type of thing, and it's just not getting the recognition I believe it deserves.
Well, I mean, I guess part of that is, you know, sort of, we have this. I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought there. It was going to be a question, sort of, about. I'm not even sure where I was going with that. I apologize, but
it's all good.
Look, we've got a bunch of players who don't get a chance to show themselves off. I mean, that's why Twitter is big, obviously. But then again, you wonder if the soccer community or just the soccer community is so small, and we all sort of look out for each other, and everybody's working towards the same goal. At some point, we're going to lose that. Is that something you think about? I mean, the fact if this game really does blow up on the level of the NBA or something like, or around the world, we lose that community element, maybe.
I don't necessarily think the community will be gone. I mean, maybe in youth soccer, the community will always be there. You know, I just think on more of a entertainment type of level, maybe it could, you know, be elevated at some of the topper ranks in terms of entertainment, because you just really don't hear about the guys. You know, you don't hear about the guys anywhere in the media. You don't, and good to, you know, to commend the MLS. Everything that, you know, happens within the league is positive. You know, it's not like the NFL and the NBA where you have all sorts of negative publicity. So it just goes to show the culture of the players, and that the players, you know, a lot of them are good people, and, you know, it extends beyond the field. You know, they really care about their communities.
So it's not that we don't know that there's might be some negative stuff happening. It's that there isn't that much negative stuff happening.
Yeah, there's not negative stuff happening. I mean, obviously there probably is here and there, but regardless, it's like one of those things where if it's not negative publicity, the media doesn't a lot of times want to really put it out there.
Right.
And I think that because of the nature of the sport and the nature of the players in this country that make it to the top levels, you know, wanting to do the right thing and typically doing the right thing, it hinders the media from really kind of lashing out and creating a huge story to go at them about.
Now, I mean, we sort of broached this, and I didn't put it in blunt terms, but obviously some of the dynamic of who cares about soccer in the United States, there's a lot of people who will tell you, well, in order for soccer to succeed or be big, it's got to be a big thing in the black community. Is that something that's changing over time? I mean, look, it's not just the black community that thinks soccer is boring or foreign or whatever, but that's an element of it as we kind of progress along here.
I don't think that's the case. I think it has a lot to do with how the media covers it.
Mm-hmm.
When they see, LeBron getting off the bus with his beats, and then they see him hanging out with Jay-Z and whatever these kids want to be, like them. At this point in time, other than the kids that play soccer, no one wants to be that person. It's just that type of thing. Like, I play soccer, but if I see, Michael Jordan or Kobe, I'm like, wow, it would be cool to be them.
Right.
There's nobody in other sports who are like, wow, I want to be Landon Donovan, so to speak.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, with the role model aspect is part of it. I mean, and I guess, we're talking about these guys not getting an opportunity to be themselves and have the public know who they are. I mean, that's part of it. Once we get to that level, and you can see some of these guys. I mean, look, Eddie Johnson's doing his thing, but nobody's paying attention half the time.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Yeah. Kwame Darko Music on Twitter. I believe it's KwameDarkoMusic.com as well. The song is on iTunes. It is Bet They See Me Now, USA Soccer Mix. We're making this the official World Cup anthem, right? Or unofficial, sorry. World Cup anthem, right?
The unofficial. Hopefully enough people here where we can start pressing some buttons and becomes the official one.
There you go. I'm going to play a little bit of it as we get out of here. Kwame, thank you very much for your time, man. Best of luck with the song. Best of luck with your career as you move forward.
Appreciate it. Take care.
All right, there you go. Playing this, Bet They See Me Now, USA Soccer Mix. Go get it on iTunes. Thanks to Kwame for joining us. We'll be right back. Soccer Morning, North American Soccer Network, NASN.TV.
Some people buying drinks, but see, we bout that hustle to take home the cup. We gotta.
They lie, y'all. Here comes my boy.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on NASN with Jason Davis.
Back on Soccer Morning. NASN.TV is down right now. I keep saying it's habit for me to say it, and you should definitely visit it when the site's back up. But right now we're migrating to new servers because you people are animals and have overloaded our previous host. And so things have to happen technically to get the site back up. If you are interested in supporting the show, soccermorning.com is probably not the place to go at the moment. But if you follow us on Twitter, there is a link, and you can get the link. Soccer Morning is the Twitter handle. Go find that. Find the link. Help support the show. We're looking forward to a future with some stuff happening. We got a couple of guest hosts, at least one guest host that I know of coming up in the near future. I'm excited about that. If you want to pick the music for today, for any Soccer Morning, there's your opportunity. Go support the show. You can do that. Maybe you just have Kwame Darko's song, intro and outro every segment. That's what I'm thinking. Bet They See Me Now, every intro and every outro. Just an entire song. Entire show of Kwame Darko. All right. So phone lines are open, 347-756-6276 if you want to jump in. Obviously, Twitter, Soccer Morning. Any thoughts on what's going on right now in the world of soccer? We've got Sepp Blatter, who has admitted that Qatar, I'm not even sure this is the first time he said this, by the way. Is this the first time that he said Qatar was a mistake? Because we know that he backed the U.S. bid. Now, and everybody else's who went with Qatar, Michel Platini was perhaps the ringleader of the push for Qatar. We talked about the rumors, the story, the background of the French government perhaps putting pressure on Platini to back Qatar. Quid pro quo, they're investing in us, let's invest in them by forcing a World Cup in their direction. If you just saw the report by Jeremy Schaap on E60 about the conditions for workers in Qatar, there's so many things surrounding this. I mean, look, Blatter didn't even mention the conditions for migrant workers. The fact that estimates are 4,000 workers will die between now and the World Cup in 2022 while doing construction on projects that will be for the World Cup. And Blatter didn't even reference that in his comments. Blatter's only concern is that it's going to be hot. We knew it was going to be hot. Every person on that executive committee knew it was going to be hot when they decided to vote for Qatar. They all knew it, and they all didn't care. Think about that. None of them cared that this was going to be a potential hazard for the players on the field and for the fans attending the tournament. That's troubling. I mean, beyond troubling. It's a disaster. FIFA is a disaster. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. And on the World Cup front, this is all coming at the same time that we're talking about Brazil and more protests. Now, these are not as large as the protests we saw at the Confederations Cup last year, but they are significant in that they represent the angst of the Brazilian people as they make a call for the government to fix the problems that are endemic in the communities. That the healthcare and the transportation and water and policing, all of these things are bad. And they haven't fixed them. And people are taking to the streets saying no to FIFA. Vincent Toronto, what's up?
Oh, hey, Jason. How's it going?
It is, man. What's up?
Terrible news, Jason. Terrible news.
Okay, I'm bracing myself right now, Vince. What's going on?
You know how we got Colin Warner from Montreal?
I did hear that, yes.
Yeah, apparently we traded away Issy Nakajima-Ferrin, the Canadian international that we'd signed, who's been fantastic for us.
He's been good. I've liked watching him. I haven't had a chance to talk about him, but he's been very good.
Ridiculous.
Why would they do that?
I don't know. I'm trying to figure out why exactly. When I look at our wing options, I mean, we brought back Lovitz, who played pretty well against Vancouver. We got Jackson, who I'm not a fan of because the guy has tons of speed, but he doesn't know what to do with the ball.
Well, he has tons of speed he uses to run into people. That's his problem, Vince.
Yeah, that too. I mean, I'm already I'm not happy with TFC at all currently, and this is terrible news. Like I don't understand the logic behind this. We basically traded away a good winger that would probably be very useful for the club moving forward for a guy who, let's be real, is simply covering for Michael Bradley, and Michael Bradley's going to come back. I don't understand this, man. Montreal, they got McInerney, now they got Nakajima-Ferrin. If they sort out their front office situation, they've made out like bandits.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's going to happen there. Joey Saputo on the field yelling at Colin Miller on Wednesday night was ridiculous. I mean, I love that he did it because it's great for us to talk about, but it was ridiculous. He said, "Get the F off my field. Get the bleep off my pitch," or something to that effect, which is the most Joey Saputo thing Joey Saputo has ever Joey Saputo'd. But then you look at their front office, you look at their coaching staff. Is Frank Klopas going to keep his job? And I suppose we have to wonder about Toronto and whether or not Ryan Nelson will last if things don't get better. 3 losses in a row. Michael Bradley is gone. Julio Cesar being gone is less of an issue because I think Bendick is fine. But your next 5, Vids, New York, Sporting, Columbus, San Jose, and New York again. That's good. That's not, I mean, you throw in the Quakes and maybe they're beatable and they don't play the best soccer, but they're going to kick you around a little bit. This isn't a good run to have right now.
I've been having arguments with so many TSC fans, and a lot of them have gotten mad at me saying, "Why are you so negative? Why are you so negative?" And okay, maybe I'm a gloomy Gus, but the fact of the matter is, a lot of them are happy with having 9 points from 7 games or whatever our haul is. For a team as talented as this, Ryan Nelson has no idea what he's doing, and I'm sticking to this. We scored early on in all these games so far, and then we end up we try to be Chelsea light, and it doesn't work. Our team can't absorb pressure.
Well, okay,
Daniil Henry. Okay,
well, I'll let you rant about Daniil Henry in a second here. But if you look, I'm looking at the standings. 9 points from 7 games, not a great return. But you're going to need, in order to make the playoffs, you're going to be right. You need to be right around 1.5 per game. Usually, I mean, it might change as more teams are added, but right now, traditionally, 1.5 a game will get you in the playoffs. Anything below that, you're kind of taking a risk. Right now, Toronto's at 1.29 points a game. That's better than Philadelphia, who's played more games and is ahead of Toronto in the standings, and that's better than Columbus, who has played more games and is ahead of Toronto in the standings. It's better than New York. It's better than Houston. It's actually third in the conference. So it's not. I mean, I know it's not great, and there's more talent. There's more. The talent level means they should be playing better or be getting more points, Vince. But don't bury your head in the sand yet.
No, absolutely. I mean, I don't want to necessarily say, like with the games to play, we have the advantage because remember, Seattle had that advantage last year and they completely messed that up. But like, just I don't want to rag on the guy too much, but anytime I try to criticize Daniil Henry, I get waves of Toronto FC fans.
Is that a function of his nationality? Is that part of it?
Yeah. Okay. Let me say. We have to understand, Jason. Canadian fans are desperate. We are a desperate bunch. Like we see a good player and we start salivating. With the rumors of Camilo and all of that, people want him back in Vancouver simply because he can get that Canadian citizenship. You don't understand, Jason. Anytime you rag on a Canadian player, the people will come out of the woodwork just to say, "Oh, there's a good old Canadian boy. How dare you?" They don't understand. This guy has cost us 4 games. He didn't cost us a Vancouver game, but as a direct result of a stupid tackle, Vancouver got back into the game and we have to go to penalties.
All right.
At what point do you bench this guy and tell him, "Hey, just because you're Canadian doesn't mean you get a pass"? I
understand, and I know you rail against the idea that he's a young player and that mistakes are part of the deal. But who's the replacement? If you bench Daniil Henry, who comes in?
You either play Orr and Caldwell together, or you bring in Hagelin, the rookie that we drafted, who's been playing very well for us as well. He keeps getting opportunity after opportunity, and you wonder, like really, if he keeps costing us these games, at what point does Nelson have to say, "Okay, buddy, you got to see the bench for a while"?
All right, fair enough. Vince from Toronto, thanks for the phone call, man. Appreciate it.
No problem, Jason.
All right,
Take care.
516, you're on the air.
Hi, Jason. Good morning. It's Sal Larson. Could we have a situation in Qatar like the U.S., like the women did in 2003 in their World Cup and leading up to it?
Well, I mean, that was, if I remember correctly, that was based on an outbreak of SARS. Was that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that was obviously a health issue that was communicable. Qatar is not going to have a communicable health issue. They're going to have people are passing out from heat stroke.
Right, it could have an economic issue.
Yeah, and then there's the matter of, I don't know. I just don't see them backing down on this front. And it's not just because FIFA doesn't have the cojones to do it. It's because they are like so deep into the process at this point, and there's so many legal ramifications potentially that I just don't think FIFA will even consider the possibility of taking it away from Qatar, minus an absolute disaster or minus a smoking gun on corruption. And I just don't think we're going to get that because I don't think Qatar needed to pay anybody under the table. There were always sort of half legitimate channels and, well, we're putting money into your association or federation here. You don't even have to really, it's not really connected to you, but clearly it's meant to push you in the direction of voting for Qatar. I just don't think that it's going to happen.
Even if we had the same situation as we did when Messi was at the World Cup?
When I'm sorry, when
Mexico got the World Cup in the 80s.
when Mexico did because Colombia wasn't ready. When Colombia had problems and economic downturn. Again, I mean, Qatar's issue has never been the money. They're going to build the stadiums. I suppose the only thing I could see happening that would force FIFA to move it are the smoking gun and corruption, which even then you wonder if that would be enough. And this issue with the migrant workers. And we've seen Qatar sort of give lip service to the notion of making changes to the kafala system and getting rid of it. But based on what I've read, and we need to get an expert on this show to really delve into it. Based on what I've read, a lot of that isn't really, it's still cosmetic. They're not really making changes that are going to force the companies to do anything. So I suppose if the international community as a whole, not just the soccer community, but everybody else gets involved in caring about what's happening there with these workers, then maybe you could see it moved, I suppose. Especially if suddenly Qatar suffers from a lack of workers, or if the cost of bringing in workers and paying them a fair wage and giving them proper accommodations becomes prohibitive. But again, Qatar's got so much money, I don't even know what the line is for that. You got anything else?
Yeah, I just have one more question. With so many penalties in MLS's this season and around penalty kicks around the league, specifically in the box, do you see a change in the rules where you have, like in hockey, that they come down on a penalty kick and they take a shot?
Oh, the old NASL approach, which MLS I think may have done in the original year of the league in the back of '96, the sort of 30-yard dribble up penalty.
No, not that. If you get tackled on the box in a breakaway, can that guy take you're on a breakaway? You don't get tackled in the box. You're on a breakaway and you get tackled. That should be deemed a penalty kick.
That is a penalty. Well, I see what you're saying. Outside of the box. No, I don't think so. That's a fundamental shift in the rules. I mean, soccer rules are notoriously slow to keep up with everything, but at the same time, you've got to stick with what everybody else is doing. I don't think MLS is going to take that step, no, because that would go against FIFA regulations and IFAB rules, and they would have to look into it. Appreciate the phone call. Thanks a lot. Speaking of MLS penalties, I mean, this is, if you remember, a couple years ago, may have even been last year, MLS and Pro, the referee organization, had put in they had announced that one of the focuses, or maybe they didn't even announce it. Maybe I saw this through one of the broadcasters who went to a meeting or something, who said they were going to focus on grabbing in the box. They were going to focus on fouls in the box. So when we get these penalties on what may or may not 50-50 sort of grabbing and holding, that's part of the reason why. 832, you're on the air.
Hi, this is James in Houston, and I just had a question. With all this talk about all the issues with FIFA and Brazil and Qatar and et cetera, what would it take for there to be an alternate soccer confederation of countries besides FIFA?
It would take one of the leading countries, one of the world's biggest soccer countries, pulling out of FIFA on moral grounds. It would take Germany, Brazil. It would maybe even the United States, not because they're a soccer power, but because they're a commercial power.
And these are the countries that are getting screwed over by FIFA recently. You have England and the United States. So I wonder, as MLS gets stronger and hopefully as the United States gets stronger, if there's enough money to where, because I figure that if we did something along those lines, people would be like, okay, well, any player that plays for them is no longer FIFA eligible or something along those lines.
No, that's exactly true. Yes.
So that would be the reason not to for those countries. But as we get stronger, eventually, hopefully we can be like, well, okay, no problem. We have the money to pay these players to make it worth their while and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I mean, I think again, you would almost need a coalition. It can't be one country. Even.
Oh, definitely not. Definitely not. In my mind, I think that it's going to take a while before the United States and MLS are strong enough, obviously. But like if you had like England and Spain and Germany, those three key countries to me, if those can get pulled away,
but
then I think the others follow.
James, you're talking. It would require. Not the problem is because most of these because football is a sport governed usually by committees and then there's not one decision maker. These countries aren't led by one person who gets to make all the decisions. Even if you have a president of the association or the federation, you have to have a consensus among a board or whatever. There are not enough courageous people on those boards to do this. There just aren't. And a lot of them are in the pocket of commercial interests who are invested in FIFA or invested in UEFA. Remember that Germany and England and France and Italy, they would be kicked out of the Champions League. Their leagues would be kicked out of the Champions League if they took that step. I mean, there's so much to exactly. Again, it'd be such a courageous act, and it may come to the point where the moral balance requires someone to do it. I just don't imagine there's the courage out there.
Yeah, and I agree that it would take a tremendous thing for that to happen. And and I look at some of these things. Obviously, it's not Europe, but with what's going to happen with this upcoming big tournament with the United States and Mexico and South American countries, and we're going to have that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And I look at that as kind of a way of strengthening, our side of the globe. Mm-hmm. Europe is obviously, I think, the biggest challenge in doing that because a lot of the corruption is in Europe. That's where FIFA is based, and all these other things.
If we're going to talk,
it's going to take a lot. I agree.
Yeah. If we're going to talk hypotheticals, then maybe we can imagine.
Oh, definitely. That's all I'm talking
about.
Maybe
we can imagine a world in which CONCACAF and CONMEBOL come together and form one football union, one organization. Separate. They split off from FIFA. They hold this centenario thing every couple of years, every 4 years, whatever you want to schedule. I mean, obviously this is the centennial, which is why it's centenario. But you hold a Copa America of all of these countries, and you announce an open invite to European countries who want to participate, and you see if anybody will jump ship from Europe. Maybe you could entice somebody to do it that way. Maybe you could. I don't know.
I don't know. It just seems frustrating with all of these things that keep coming up, and it's like, well, why are we letting this small handful of people just kind of dictate so much, and just kind of the way things go? It's just frustrating sometimes.
Yeah. So appreciate the call, James.
I was just curious.
Thanks a lot, man. All right, there you go. 661, you're on the air.
Yes, it's Robert from Alaska.
What's up? You say Alaska?
Yes.
Hey, what's up, Robert?
Hey, I wanted to ask about the new MLS TV rights deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's kind of great how they're gonna have a minimum. They say they're gonna commit, and now they have a long period of time. But I want to say throughout, on the weekends it's gonna be great because they're going to show games. But what happens from Monday through Friday? Are they even promote the games or even talk about the games? How they have the weekday talk shows.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk about that at the conference, the press conference where this was announced. John Skipper, president of ESPN, and I apologize. I don't apologize. I just don't know the Fox guy's name. But both of them sort of addressed the issue of committing resources to promoting the games. And I think what the difference is here, I mean, they have to show it. We won't believe that they'll do it until they do it. But the difference between the last deal and previous deals for ESPN and maybe even Fox and this one is that they have locked in times that they can promote over and over and over again. They don't have to create a new spot every week for, this week it's Thursday and this week and next week it's Saturday and the week after that it's a Sunday game. No, they know every week it's going to be Sunday night, 5 o'clock, 7 o'clock. They can lock those things in, get the promotional machines kicked in, and hopefully make a difference in driving people to watch those games. And the same thing for Univision on Friday nights.
Yes. Well, it's I watch some of the other shows, and I hope they talk about soccer. But they'll try and bring it up, and then they'll I don't know. The host will say they'll be mad about it.
ESPN's gotten better about that over the years. SportsCenter's gotten better. They still butcher the occasional name, which. Some of these names are hard to pronounce. I get it. I have to pronounce a lot of names. I screw up a lot. So when they're doing highlights, they get them wrong. But I think for the most part, they have stopped with the, this sort of tongue-in-cheek, sarcastic approach to doing highlights or talking about soccer. I think they have. Now, part of that is because of the influence of European soccer and the big stages of the Champions League and the Premier League. and maybe they don't respect MLS on that level, but that'll come. I mean, and if you have this commitment and you know when these games are going to be, maybe we will see an uptick in the amount of talk we'll get. I mean, I think what you're saying is even beyond Sports Center, will there ever be a First Take in which they debate the starting forward for the Seattle Sounders, with Clint Dempsey gone, that kind of thing, right? Like that's what we were trying to get across. Those shows that we are a long way off from that, unfortunately. I just think we are. The only time that's going to happen is when it relates to the national team. Those are in a World Cup year. So you might see some First Take U.S. national team talk, some Pardon the Interruption national team talk. You'll certainly get some soccer sort of dropped in on Around the Horn because Tony Reale is a soccer guy. But beyond that, we are years away from MLS being part of that conversation. I agree that that's sort of the goal. But I don't know that you can force it because I would love for some producer at First Take, and I never watched that show, and I never would, but I would love for some producer at First Take to go, today we're going to talk about MLS, because I'd love to see what happens, but it just doesn't seem likely.
All right, man. That's what I wanted to ask. Thanks, man.
I appreciate it, Robert. Thanks a lot. Yeah, I don't think that this contract means you're going to get Stephen A. Smith talking about soccer, although Stephen A. Smith is connected to soccer now because he is the voice in Clint Dempsey's stomach as he is hungry for Oberto beef jerky. Yeah. Have you seen that commercial yet? Trevor, have you seen this Oberto beef jerky commercial with Clint Dempsey training and the voice in his stomach is Stephen A. Smith? I said it was like a bad acid trip. And he's also the voice of Richard Sherman's stomach in the same vein. Because Sir Sherman, the Seattle Seahawks corner, is also hungry and would also like some Roberto beef jerky, according to Stephen A. Smith, voice in the stomach. So there you go. Yeah, Clint Dempsey is pimping beef jerky. How do you feel about that? And some beer. I think it's Modelo Especial, perhaps. Yeah, which he's been doing for a couple years now. So you've got beer and beef jerky for America's captain. Is that good enough? Is that really good enough? Shouldn't we have the captain of the U.S. national team doing something better? I mean, no offense to Alberto, which I'm sure is a great product. I don't think I've ever had it. Or Modelo Especial. But come on. Like, where's the car commercials? Where's the Beats audio commercials do we have any of those? Where's the Beats audio commercial with Dempsey or Donovan or, I don't know, Julian Green? Nobody knows who he is yet, but Julian Green. Byron, you're on the line. What's up? Byron. Can you hear me, Byron? Byron, I can hear you. What's up? All right, man. Letting you go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Call me back, Byron. All right. 347-756-6276. The rest of the show is completely yours. Whatever you want to talk about, we can touch on what you make of MLS during this World Cup period. Because, again, there are so many players leaving, and so many of these teams will be significantly impacted. The best teams. The better you are, the more likely you are to have internationals who are going to the World Cup. That's a tough thing for MLS teams. You want to sign the best players because you know you can go win with them. But at the same time, you know you're going to lose them. Byron, you there?
Hey, good morning, Jason.
Good morning, Byron. What's up?
I just want to know your thoughts on the Fabian Johnson comments that he said that he would prefer to play midfield.
Yeah, Fabian Johnson says he would prefer to play midfield, but he expects to play as a defender at this World Cup. I don't put a lot into that. I think that those comments, we can overstate what they mean. He's not saying that Klinsmann told him he's going to play in the midfield. Klinsmann is the type of guy that doesn't like to show his hand ahead of what he's going to be doing at the World Cup. So I don't know that I believe he won't be playing midfield. I mean, clearly, I suppose if we took a poll of national team fans, Byron, I'll start with you. Would you rather Fabian Johnson play as a defender or as a midfielder?
Oh, no, definitely. We need him more as a defender. I mean, having Beasley there would be a disaster. Beasley is the other guy. I mean, Beasley's the obvious choice if Fabian Johnson plays in the midfield, and that it creates a weak spot defensively. Beasley can help in other ways, but that's the balance. That would mean taking out Donovan out of the starting lineup, so I really don't see that.
Well, I don't think Donovan's going to start. I mean, okay, again, maybe I'm going back on what I just said. Don't buy into all this rhetoric. But the thing that you notice, if you watch that Inside the U.S. Men's National Team Road to Brazil documentary, the first part of it on ESPN, is Donovan sounds like a guy who just doesn't. I mean, look, I love Donovan as a player. I respect everything he's done for the national team. I'll even defend his choice to play in MLS rather than try to make it overseas again and again. But he does not come across as a guy I want in my starting lineup right now. He doesn't. He comes across as a guy who's on the verge of being done. He comes across as a guy who still enjoys playing soccer, but is sort of ready to accept the fact he's not the lead guy. If you don't desperately want to be in the starting lineup, if your attitude isn't, I want to play, I want to start, I want to play all 3 games, I want to get us to the knockout round, I don't think I want you in there. And Donovan on that documentary and in several other places recently has sort of sounded like a guy who's accepting that he's a substitute. And if you're accepting that you're a substitute, you're not really doing enough for me.
I mean, I think part of this is his whole goal listing so far in the season.
Perhaps.
I don't know.
But I mean, he's talking about how he can't train at 100%. This is all sort of around the fact that he didn't start against Mexico. And he's talking about how he can't train at 100% and sort of explaining why he wasn't as good as he should have been in training, which is why Klinsmann dropped him from the starting lineup or didn't start him in that game. And it sounds like a guy who's either making excuses or sort of just accepting his fate as an older player, not quite as in shape, certainly can't. I understand that he can't go as hard as he used to. But again, if your attitude isn't, I'm going to try my best to go as hard as every day as possible, instead of this, well, I'm just going to, I'll just sit back and every now and then, every other day, I'm going to have to take it easy. No, he's 32 or whatever, and he needs to manage his health, his fitness. But there are other guys who can fill his role who don't have to manage their fitness. You get what I'm saying, Byron?
Yeah. But, I still think he's a really important part to this team.
Okay.
No one on that team has the experience that he has. And in a team where there's a couple guys with a lot of experience, but I mean, there's just a lot of young guys like in that defense. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you. Again, if he was the player he was 5 years ago, there'd be no question. Thanks for the call, Byron. Appreciate it. 803, you're on the air.
Hey, Bob, how are you?
Hey, Bob, what's up?
Hey, I was after listening to you guys on Monday night. I'm beginning to believe that Timothy Chandler, he's going to be our starter.
That's what the tea leaves would suggest, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and one of the things that kind of got me that was when I watched that documentary on the United States team on Sunday.
Yeah,
I think it was. One of the things that the one scene that I thought was interesting was when the coaches were diagramming the plays for Mexico, and I started to think of Murder Ball. Did you ever see that movie Murder Ball?
No, I haven't seen it. I know what you're talking about though. That's the wheelchair basketball movie.
Right. Well, there's a dual story when one of the players is he doesn't make the team and he quits and started coaching Canada's team, and then Canada ends up beating the United States is undefeated. They beat the United States, and then they actually beat the United States again to win the silver medal.
Okay.
So it just seems like those guys in that room, they're intent. I mean, they want to beat Germany, and it kind of gave me that same feeling after watching that movie that when they face Germany, they want Bundesliga guys on that back line. They're going to have Johnson and Chandler. I bet you any money.
All right. Thanks for the call, Bob. I appreciate it, man. Giovanni, you're on the line. What's up?
Hey, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
I'm good. It's Friday. How can you not be good on a Friday, Giovanni?
I understand, man. You know what? Just real quick, you gotta change your show a little bit later, man. What about us West Coasters, man? We got too early in the morning.
All right,
man.
look, but Giovanni, the problem is if I move the show for you West Coasters, then I end up in the afternoon on the East Coast. And come on, people live on the East. Giovanni, I'm cool with LA. I need to get to Portland. I respect the West Coast. I was born in California, but the people live on the East Coast, Giovanni. That's just that's the fact of the matter. The people live out here.
Yeah, man, it's cool. I was listening to you guys' podcast on the Best Soccer Show the other day.
Yeah.
And I I know you guys are discussing about Timmy and some of the other German Americans. I can't, for some reason, I can't remember his name. Right, Green, I believe.
Yeah, Julian Green, Jermaine Jones, Ferguson Johnson. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
No, you know what, man? I understand that. I understand what you guys are trying to say about how I believe it was Jared, right? Jared Dubois, who was saying that he didn't want Timmy Chandler on the team.
Yeah, because he doesn't feel like Timmy Chandler's committed.
Yeah, no, that's totally understandable. I do kind of believe that once Brian Sharetta's story came out about, was it the German Americans and Americans not getting along?
Something like that. It was basically about clicks, but yeah, it was along those lines.
Yeah, I kind of get that, but you know what, man? To be quite honest, I feel the U.S. because you know as well, as everyone else does, is that the teams that we're going to be facing, I really do believe, even although Timmy Chandler may have his his perks, I do believe he's our best option at right back.
Mm-hmm.
And also Julian Green, because I was also listening to some other show, and they were talking about how Julian Green doesn't deserve it, and it's a scandal, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But
I think I know what you're talking about, Giovanni. I think I know who said that. I don't think it's a scandal, but it makes me uncomfortable. It does. But I'm not at training. I'm not seeing what he's doing on the field. And
exactly.
Because, look, I like Brad Davis. I think Brad Davis could be an asset at the World Cup, but I'm not going to sit here and tell you that over the course of the next month, Brad Davis is definitely going to be better than Julian Green as they prepare for a World Cup. And I will say this, is as much as I am a team guy and want to see a cohesive unit, and the Americans have always been about the sum of the part, the team is more than the sum of its parts. I do want the best players. I want the best players. I want the most dangerous players. I want the guys who can make a difference. And that might be Timmy Chandler, and it might be Julian Green.
And that's totally respect. I totally respect that answer. It's just the fact that Julian Green is raw. That's everybody knows that. He's just extremely raw. Plays in the 4th Division Bundesliga. But the fact of the matter is, like you just said, we don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how he plays, because for all we know, he can have a stinker when he goes on the field. But that's the thing. I think what Jurgen's trying to do is trying to surprise, because I don't think no one's really seen how he plays except for the coaches at Bayern Munich.
He's not going to be a surprise to the Germans. They have the resources to learn about Julian Green, even if they haven't seen him play, because I don't know, is Yogi Love taking in 4th Division games in Germany? I don't know.
Yeah, but I guess my point is that I think Timmy Chandler, best option, better than Brad Evans. I think he's more of a technical player than Brad Evans. Because Brad Evans, that's not even his position. Right back is not even his position.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Yeah. Certainly an issue.
It's hard. How are you going to counter against the quickness of Germany with their tactics? And oh man, it just gets me so worried about what players are on the German team and on the Portuguese team and even the Ghanaian team. Man, their speed, I want to say they're equal to us in athleticism and strength. Mm-hmm. So I don't see. I think what it comes down to is tactics, and I just really hope the United States has good enough tactics, or there technically, to be able to beat a strong team.
Yeah, I appreciate the phone call, Giovanni. Thanks a lot, man.
No problem.
All right, thanks for getting up on the West Coast. Isaac in Pittsburgh, what's up?
Hey, Jason. I made up my mind yesterday. The only team that the U.S. has to fear in this so-called group of death is Ghana, because they've been such a thorn in our back.
Okay.
Portugal is just Cristiano Ronaldo, pretty much, and he doesn't have the best track record in the last 2 World Cups.
João Moutinho is not very good, and Postiga's not very good. And sorry, Isaac, I'm just go ahead.
But here, the team that we are supposed to fear the most is Germany. And they got all these injury issues, like Mario Gomez was left out, Khedira was left out. And then I was watching their friendly against Poland.
That was not their team. That was not that was not even remotely close to the team they'll take to the World Cup.
I'll be the first person to admit that, but it showed that, they have the same depth issues as, everyone else is having. Like maybe for them, they're starting 11, they're Titans, but then for the other 12 so players, it's not all that that they're made up to be. And if these injury issues persist, then even if you have these best of the best world class players, let's say you have an inexperienced striker up top or an inexperienced winger, and they can't get the ball to the people who can make things happen.
Okay.
So the only reason that I'm less unconfident about Germany than most people, and I don't give Portugal that much cred, but Ghana's just been a thorn in our back. So I think that's some big psychological hurdles.
I've said this before, Isaac. I think they will be competitive in every match. Okay, they're not going to get blitzed and lose for nothing. I just don't think that's going to happen. They might, if things go wrong towards the end of a game that they're losing, it could be 3-1, something like that. But you look at it, and as you said, I think Ghana is the hurdle you care most about, not just because it's the first game and you feel like you need 3 points out of it, but because of the psychological element of beating Ghana. You beat Ghana because they are the team that knocked you out in 2 consecutive World Cups, and suddenly you're bursting with this notion of, this is a different World Cup for us. We are on a different level. We beat the team that knocked us out in 2006, that knocked us out in 2010. Now we can use this as a platform to go and really give it to Portugal, to really give a challenge to Germany, and hopefully, you script together 4 points out of the 3 matches. You get that win against Ghana. You figure out a way to draw Portugal or Germany. You give them everything you got, and you get through, maybe on goal difference. I mean, that's a reasonable way to do this. Thanks for the phone call, Isaac. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Jake.
All right, man. Someone's on the line with me now. Who's this?
This is David, Prescott Valley. How you doing?
Hey, David, out in Zona. What's up?
Hey, you East Coasters, man. I can't believe what you just said.
Oh, come on.
Anyway,
I'm having some fun, David. I'm having some fun. Don't worry about it.
I'll never forget, I went to Boston, of all places, and I say that because I'm such a West Coast guy. I went to Boston about 10, 15 years ago on some company business for several weeks, and oh my gosh, talk about salt and whatever it is, and I just did not mix with those people. But anyway, but I did love the fact that at 10:30 at night I could turn on like a Dodgers game,
Yeah,
so that was cool.
yeah.
But anyway, first of all, I'm going to say, Ghana, people, take a look at this lineup of players they have.
Oh, yeah.
This team is, I think they're way above Portugal. That's my personal opinion.
All right.
They are. This is a solid team. And even one guy that no one's talking about is this Quado Asamoah. He plays for Juventus. This guy's incredible. And this guy scored some sick goals this year in Serie A. And that's just a guy that's kind of almost off the radar for them. They are stacked. This is a good team.
They do have some talent, yeah.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
They have tons of talent. They absolutely do. Now, you wonder if they're going to use some of this younger talent. I mean, this is a team that has relied on Michael Essien for a long time. They've obviously got Sully Montari still in this team. You look around their midfield there, Quado Asamoah, as you mentioned. Their attack, obviously, we all know what Asamoah Gyan can do. Scored the goal, beat us. Playing in the Middle East, how is that going to impact him? Does that make any difference? Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Kevin Prince Boateng, which is he's a tank that goes at $150. So how do you stop him?
Yeah, and it's interesting the sort of dichotomy between Landon Donovan and Gyan, who you just mentioned. If you see some of the quotes from I'm sorry, not from Gyan, from Essien. My apologies. If you see some of the quotes from Essien, what is he saying? He's saying, I want to lead this team to the promised land. I got to get back into this, and I'm driven for this World Cup, blah, 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 blah. And what do we hear from Donovan? Well, maybe I'm just not the same player I used to be. I really don't want to hear that from Donovan. I really wish he'd shut his pie hole.
Yeah.
As a fan of the U.S. men's national team, I don't want to hear this from him.
Yeah.
Just go work your butt off, and if you have your own personal doubts, keep them to yourself, and keep them from your coach, too. Just go out there and work. You know what I'm saying? But that's enough about that.
I appreciate
anyway,
appreciate the phone call, David, out in Arizona, listening on the West Coast or close to it anyway. Arizona not technically on the West Coast, but I guess you guys consider yourself West Coasters. Just a couple minutes left here.
And I'm going to take a left turn a bit, and we can, if you got a call in you want to get in, 347-756-6276, I'll take it. But I want to touch on, well, first, just to wrap up some news, Pachuca takes a 3-2 lead in the Liga MX final over Lyon at Lyon last night. So that sets up for a nice second leg in the final of the Clausura. We've obviously got the Cup finals in Germany and England this weekend. Looking forward to those. La Liga, I mentioned at the top of the show, coming down to that final game for the title. The full slate of MLS action. But last couple of minutes here, I'm going to point you in the direction of thebiglead.com, where Gus Johnson, in an interview with that site, with Michael Cardillo, I believe, is talking about his soccer experience. And he says, this is the quote that you pull out. He wants to create an American sound in soccer broadcasting. Now, I don't know exactly what he means by that. I mean, there are a lot of ways that can go. I think I know what he means by that, but I wonder if that already exists, and he is just either blind to that fact. I mean, JP Dellacamera has been doing this for a long time. Phil Shane has been doing this for a long time. Neither of those guys has a British style about them. They are American through and through. So is there an American style, and Gus Johnson just hasn't figured out how to grab onto that style? Or is he trying to blaze some trail? A lot of talk about the rhythm of the game and that Gus Johnson fails to grab it. He fails to understand the rhythm. And I was thinking about this. I think it's as simple as, in other sports, football and basketball being Gus Johnson's two main gigs, there's an anticipation element that gives you time to sort of build up to something. A player takes the end of the game. A player takes a three-point shot. He rises up. He fires, rise and fire, as Gus would say. It's headed towards the net. Gus can hit that crescendo as the ball is arcing through the air. In an NFL game, the same sort of thing. You have these set moments. The goal line, the ball's on the goal line. It's inside the 20. It's fourth down. Quarterback drops back to pass and launches one deep, and you can sort of see the trajectory and see whether this wide receiver is going to settle underneath it. You can anticipate these moments, and he can lead up to him with that trademark style of his, which is essentially yelling, but in a refined way. You can't really do that in soccer. There's no moment to anticipate. You can see a player can break away. Now, on a breakaway, that's a little bit different, but a player can find space, can look like he has an opportunity to score, pull a shot out of nowhere, or make a pass. There's just not a moment where he can build up to it. And I think it's as simple as that for Gus Johnson. It's finding that you listen to a British broadcast, you listen to Phil Shane, you listen to JP Dellacamera. What they do is they wait. You wait for that moment to happen. You can't really anticipate it. You have to respond to it. Maybe I'm wrong about this, and I'm no play-by-play guy. I've never done it in my life. I'd love to try, but I've never done it in my life. But it just seems like that may be part of the problem here. So when Gus Johnson says he wants to create an American style, I'm going to say, Gus, it already exists. John Strong is American. He has an American style. JP Dellacamera is American. He has an American style. Phil Shane is American. He has an American style. Maybe go listen to those guys a little bit. Check out what they do. Fascinating interview, by the way. Go read it, thebiglead.com. All right. Thanks to our guest today, Giuseppe LaRocca from the Trey Cortista podcast, TreyCortista_GL on Twitter. Go follow him. And Kwame Darko dropping Bet They See Me Now USA Soccer Mix. Go find that on iTunes. He's Kwame Darko on music on Twitter. Thanks to both of those guys for joining us. Thanks to everybody that called. Reminder, NASN.TV down at the moment, migrating to new servers, new hosts, whatever. I'm not a tech guy. Whatever's happening there, something's happening. Go to Twitter, Soccer Morning's Twitter feed. Find the link if you want to support the show. We are listener supported these days. We are working on some things, by the way, behind the scenes at NASN. I will hopefully be able to give you details in the near future, but just know it could be good for your listening pleasure, and it could be around the World Cup. Those are the two hints I'll give. All right, I think that's it. Am I done? Am I done? I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out with Kwame again. I like this song. I like it a lot. Thanks to everybody who listened this week. Check us out on iTunes, and I'll talk to you guys on Monday. Bye.
Some people buying dreams, but see we bout that hustle to take home the cup. We gotta flex our muscle. Journey to the top, challenges we bout to face, but let it unfold and watch the game take shape. So play me into space, up and down the sideline, 'cause when I hit the byline, you know that it's grind time.